And hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today what we're going to be doing is looking at a couple of techniques for setting up a interior environment for our character to be able to walk around in. So this will come in the creating of a two-story house or a two-story building. We will start off with the first floor in the first level, and then set up a second floor in the second tutorial. But let's see what we can do here. Okay, so this is the area and the space that we've created so far. Our character is going to start off here. They're going to be looking at that. They'll walk down this way. And essentially what I want to do is the first thing that happens when they walk into this space is they'll see a house, some type of a structure that will block their view. So if you can imagine that you're standing here and you see like a house sitting right here. So if you went this way, there'd be like maybe some yard going that way, and then you'd have the large wall going in this direction. So I want the house to be somewhat in this space. So let's go ahead and create the basic shape for the house and look at a couple of techniques that we could use to make this more fun and easier to use. So we are going to be using a geometry. So let's grab a geometry. Let's go into the box and grab a box and put it out on the floor. Now, by default, what's going to happen is it's going to come out with whatever material you last have or you have selected. So if I don't want it to be the same brick, I could delete. Let's delete the geometry. I will select basic wall and bring it in like that. And I believe if we don't have anything selected, when we bring it in, it should just come in plain. There we go. That's really what I want. So I'll bring that in plain. Okay, from there we already know that the height of 400 is a pretty good height. If I was to push play real quick, we'll see how tall that wall appears to us. Right, so 400 is a pretty good height. That'd be like the equivalent for a 10-foot ceiling, maybe even a little bit higher than a 10-foot ceiling. So 400 is going to be plenty big. Now I'm using 400 because we're also going to take some of that 400 space and make it the interior sides of the wall. So right now what I want to do real quick is again select this, and let's go into the details panel for that, and let's remember, not in the transformation tool, but in the brush tool, brush settings. And let's make this, say, 1000. Oops, that's 100. Let's make it 1000 by 1000 by 400. So that's the size of the house. Now that might be a little bit too close to the wall. So what I'm going to do is grab this object, move it back just a little bit, and you can position it somewhat where you want. I'm hitting the N key to put that back down on the floor. Okay, so I have the basic box there. Let me go ahead and throw some type of material on there. So again, I'm in content, starter material, materials, and let's see, what could the outside of my house look like? I guess brick. It's already getting tired of brick. So we can do like a concrete on the outside. Okay, that's fine. It's a little different. It's got the same coloring, but I'm not super fabbed about it. But silver wall, concrete rest wall. Let's see. Ooh, techno checkers. Not the water, not the oak, not any of the woods. Let's see. Oh, maybe the sandstone. Okay, that's a nice exterior for the house. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that to all the other sides. So you should be able to select that, right click, select matching brushes, and then we should be able to drag that same object into the second one, and then that'll apply it to all the other sides. Okay. I mean, you could theoretically have gone one by one by one and thrown it in there, and then that would have also been fine. Okay, so now we have a structure. If we walked around it, we wouldn't be able to get in. There's no doors, there's no windows. So before we do that real quick, let me just show you what happens when we walk into the structure. So if we walk into the structure, you'll see that the structure itself has a wall on the outside, but if I walk in, there would be no wall on the inside. And the reason for this is because the computer is trying to save space as far as memory. If all it has to do is put a material on the outside wall, then it doesn't have to do one on the inside wall. Well, then at that point, it's saving computer power and computer space. So what we're going to do is we're going to, with this selected, because this is a geometry, we can go into brushes. Let's see. Where is it? Yeah, they're underneath brushes, and we can say hollow. Now, once we do hollow, you'll see that we now have an interior wall and an exterior wall. Now I'm going to go ahead and do select, because it must have knocked out my material, and select all matching brushes, and we will throw that sandstone back on everything. So now when I go in, I have sandstone on all four walls and ceiling and floor, and then I also again have it on the outside. Now, the thing about what we've got so far is that this is really nice. The only problem is that if I'm outside, I can't really see inside. I actually have to go into the interior space to be able to work on the inside. And that's kind of a bit of a pain. So there is actually a really cool thing that we can do with this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select the geometry, and I'm going to make a duplicate copy of it. So I'm going to double click, select the whole thing. Right click, go to edit, duplicate. So now I have a second copy of it. And what I'm going to do with this copy is I'm actually going to go to the first one. So so you can see that if I click on one, I'm on 10. If I click on the first one, I'm on 9. So in my case, it's the 9th box that I've created. In your case, it'll be whatever it is. So I'm going to grab that first box, and I'm going to go to location. And what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to right click where it says location, and I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to click on that second box. I'm going to go to location, right click, and paste. And now both of those boxes are going to be occupying the exact same space. Now with the second box, with the one that we just moved into the correct space, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go back to my brush tool, and I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger. So the wall thickness is 10. We should have probably have made that 30 before we did the copying. So let me make this 30 on the first one. Or I'm sorry, let's make this 30. So we're going to add 30, and then I'm going to go back to that first box. So that was 9. I'm going to go to brush tools, and I'm going to also make this 30. So there's a wall thickness of 30. So what that means is that if I come in here, the difference between the space between this first wall and that second wall is going to be actually 30 units. So if we were to create a door frame, that would be the space that the door would occupy. That little bit of wall that creates the door frame would be about 30 units wide. So right now we have those two boxes, and we have now the wall thickness added, and we have both of them as hollow. I'm going to go back to the secondary box, and I'm going to increase the x-axis and the y-axis by 15. So remember that we made the wall thickness 30, and we're adding 15. So we're making the second box just 15 units bigger. So let's go ahead and do that. So this would be 1015. We're going to go to the y, and we'll do the same thing, 1015. Now, doesn't look like anything's really changed. All we've got is one slightly bigger box over another slightly smaller box. Now, the cool thing that we can do with this is that if I go to the larger of the boxes and I hit basically I'm making it that unit invisible, we can now see that as I move around this box, I don't have to actually go inside to see what's going on inside that box. So it's going to make it really easy to start doing arrangements and doing things and being able to move around. Now, the other thing that we're also noticing is that we also don't have a ceiling or a floor. And that's because we actually increased the size of the box by the X and the Y axis, and we didn't do it by the Z axis. Now, on the Z axis, one of the things you could do, because having this top-down view is actually quite helpful, but I do kind of want to see the floor. So let's go ahead and increase this by 15 as well. So it'd be 415. And that actually drops the ceiling back in there. Now, if you needed to, you might need to move that up or down. But that's actually really, really cool right there, that we have the ability, no matter what angle that we're looking at, that we could be able to see the inside of the structure. Now, if you go inside the box, you get to see all four walls because you're inside the first box. If you move to the outside, it's going to feel like you've got this invisible wall that you can see around. And the second you don't want to see that wall, you want to see the actual outside wall for the building, you just put that layer and make it visible again, and everything is still inside. You have the inside box, you have the outside box, and if I was going to be working on the inside of the house, I'd make that layer invisible, and then I can work around no matter what angle I'm at, and I can see into this structure, which is really, really useful when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. Does it look cool? And later, there is actually a way to be able to set up levels this way. So if your level was going to be like a dungeon level, you can use this technique to create the dungeon and be able to see the inside of that dungeon, no matter, or the tunnel system or cave system, being able to see inside of it. So that's really, really cool. For right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that layer visible again, so then that way we can see the house in relationship to the rest of the environment. All right, so now that we have that really, really cool feature, let me show you something else that's really neat. We're going to, again, use another geometry. So I'm going to go and grab a geometry. I'm going to put that on the floor. And we already know that the wall thickness is going to be 30. So I need to make this at least a thickness of, let's say, 40. So I'm looking at that as the X. And I believe that's my Z axis. Oops, not that way. Let's do it the other way. There we go. So that we will make, let's say, 40. So it'll be, and actually, let's see, the 15 plus moving it out, but that's still in the 30. I think, yeah, if we're 40, we should be okay. This is going to be a doorway. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating another geometry that I'm going to make available for my character to be able to walk through. Remember that our character is about 200 by 200, so we probably need to make the doorway about 300, and that's why we made the building itself 4. So then that way, when we put the doorway in there, we will have enough clearance space for our character to move around in. So the first thing that I want to do is let's just pick this up, move it up into the air, and hit the N key. So then that way the bottom of this is even with the floor. I'm going to then push this object into, and I really just need a little space of this hanging out on one side. And if I go to the inside, I again need just a little bit of that on the inside. So I think we're good. I maybe can even that out a little bit. Okay, so that's exactly what we're looking for. So this is where our door is going to be. So we're going to actually have a door on the side right over there. Okay. Now to make the door, what we need to do is, again, in the brush settings, with the door selected, right now we have the option of making it, right now it is an additive, but we have the option of making it subtractive. So additive means that it's going to be adding space, and subtractive means that if we have one geometry inside of another geometry, it's going to subtract that geometry from the other ones. So if I hit subtract now, we see that we get our doorway. Very, very nice little doorway. Okay, now from there we could make some adjustments. We could see that that kind of doesn't look very nice right there. If we wanted to, we could say bring this down or bring this up just a little bit to match the floor inside. We could have it to where that seems more normal, where you would have like a little bit of a step up in a doorway instead of what we were seeing before where it was a step down. If you wanted it to be a little bit more flush, we could always hit end didn't work. Send it all the way down to the floor. And so let's see if we can hold, and it's not the Alt key, I believe it's, too many shortcuts. Now, if you want to get it absolutely flush, obviously we can use the location tool and we can say that this is the x-axis. So let's move the x-axis down a little bit. It looks like it's at 330. Let's make it 329. Okay, a little bit lower. Let's make it 328, 327, 326. Whoops, and all I'm doing is typing in numbers. 326. Okay, can check and see how close we are. Still seeing a little bit of a lip, so 326. Let's make it 325. And that looks pretty flush. Okay, so now I have a flush doorway. As long as this isn't protruding through the top, we're pretty good on the doorway there. And if I was to go ahead and push play real quick, we'll swing our character around and see what this looks like as the character walks through. Now, it is always important as you're making doorways to make sure that the character is actually able to walk through there easily while they're changing position. So you never want this because, you know, not all your characters are going to have the same width. So you have to always think about the doorway with the widest of your characters or the tallest of your characters and make sure that all of them can actually fit into that space. Now the doorway is a little bit tall, so if we wanted to, we might be able to knock that down just a little bit. So let me hit escape. Now to reselect that space, what I need to do is I need to either have named it correctly over here with my boxes, or if I click in the space not on the outside, because that would select the outside box, this would select the inside box, but the space between the two actually selects the subtractive shape. Now from there, we know that the location is going to be 325, so I'm going to go ahead and let's say from a Z of 300, let's make this 250. So it should make a slightly smaller door. Now, of course, that changed where that was. So let's go ahead and do this at 325. And let's see if that lined us back up. Nope, so it's a smaller door. So let's just get it closer. And again, we'll just play the numbers game. And this time, let's make it 300 because it looks like sections of 5 might, whoops. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. Okay, and there's our flush door. Let's go ahead and walk through that again real quick. Okay, easy to walk through and doesn't look like a tremendously tall door anymore. Right, so again, you can play around the size and the shape of that door, but that's going to be just fine. Now, also, this shouldn't mess around with the example of what I showed you earlier. So if I select the outside box and make that invisible, the door will still have a frame, and from the inside box, you'll still be able to see the whole thing. From the outside, it'll look a little bit weird, but you'll know that there's sort of a door there because you'll be able to see the outside frame of it. Now, again, this is just to help you be able to do interior stuff that we're going to do later. But for now, let's just make that visible again. So I just wanted to show you that that hole in the door is not going to, shouldn't mess you up. And there's no negative consequences for doing that to it and then being able to navigate around and see what's going on with that. Okay, so that basically takes care of creating the building structure and having a really, really cool way to be able to see inside that structure and be able to see the outside of that structure. In the next video, what we'll do is we'll do a little bit more decoration. We'll use a couple more subtractives to create some windows and to create a hole in the floor and use a geometry for some stairs and creating a second deck and really making our house look a little bit more interesting than just a box, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.